This is a great story. The South by Southwest Music Festival is being held right now, I believe, as we speak. But a bunch of bands, in fact, every artist from Ireland, including Kneecap and Gavin James, pull out of South by Southwest Music Festival in solidarity with Gaza. Musicians drop out of lineup as a result of the U.S. Army's sponsorship of Arts Festival in Austin, Texas. This from the Irish Times. A number of Irish artists have pulled out of the South by Southwest Festival in solidarity with people of Gaza, citing the U.S. Army's sponsorship of the Austin, Texas event. Irish language rap group Kneecap, as well as bands Soda Blonde and Sprints, have also cited the presence of a subsidiary company of weapons manufacturer RTX, that is formerly Raytheon, at South by Southwest as a reason for canceling appearances at the Film, Media, Music, and Culture Festival. Singer-songwriter Gavin James has also announced his decision to pull out of the festival. Kneecap announced its decision to pull out of South by Southwest on social media on Sunday, canceling 3 scheduled shows at the festival. It is done in solidarity with the people of Palestine and to highlight the unacceptable deep links the festival has to weapons companies and the U.S. military, who at this very moment are enabling a genocide and famine against a trapped population, the group said. The group said that they could not in good conscience attend the event, given the U.S. Army's sponsorship of the festival and the platforming of RTX Corporation, formerly Raytheon. Here's the tweet that they put out with their full statement. We will not be appearing at South by Southwest Festival. The U.S. Army is signed on as a super sponsor of South by Southwest, according to a post on the military's website. Collins Aerospace, a subsidiary company of Raytheon, RTX, will have a presence at the festival in Austin. RTX, one of the largest defense companies in the world, is known to supply weapons to the Israeli government. Quote, these organizations are literally profiting from and facilitating war crimes, Kneecap continued. That the organizers of South by Southwest have taken the decision to mix the arts with military and weapons companies is unforgivable. It's a typo in the article. That they have done so as we witness a genocide facilitated by the U.S. military and its contractors is depraved, they said. Bands Soda Blonde and Sprints have followed suit, pulling out of the festival for similar reasons. Here's a statement, full statement from the Soda Blonde band. After careful consideration over the weekend, we made the decision not to board our flight from Dublin to Austin, Texas this morning. We have officially withdrawn from South by Southwest and will not be performing at this year's event. As an independent band, this decision entails a significant financial loss and was not arrived at lightly. However, it has come to our attention that the festival has formed partnerships that starkly conflict with our band's core principles and values. We have learned that the U.S. Army is a super sponsor of South by Southwest 2024, and Collins Aerospace, a subsidiary of the defense contractor RTX Corporation, formerly Raytheon, will be showing new defense technologies at the event. This information has prompted deep concern within our group, particularly in light of the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Palestine, a situation exacerbated by the U.S. government's provisions of arms to Israel. Music is about unity, healing, and the transcendent power of shared experience, not about endorsing or normalizing the machinery of war. The decision to involve entities directly linked to the global arms trade and by extension the ongoing atrocities in Palestine is not just tone deaf, it's morally reprehensible. We were excited to join South by Southwest, expecting a celebration of diverse voices and creativity. Instead, we find ourselves being asked to tacitly endorse the military-industrial complex, something we cannot and will not do. We stand in solidarity with all artists and organizations advocating for a world free from violence and oppression. We hope this decision contributes to a broader conversation about the responsibilities of cultural festivals and the power of the arts as a vehicle for positive change. Signed, Soda Blonde, Free Palestine, Ceasefire.
Woo!
Yes, well done. Dublin brand Sprints said on Instagram that they would pull out of the festival in solidarity with the Palestinian people and as a stand against the U.S. Army sponsorship and defense contractor involvement. In announcing his decision to pull out of the festival, Gavin James said that music and art should always stand on the side of peace and humanity. I will never support any event that is associated with weapons of war, he said. So that's great to see. Obviously, we've seen a lot of artists cower on this issue. So that's one angle to look at this from. The other thing I should just say, and I'm sure most of you guys know this because South by Southwest is a huge festival. This would be like a filmmaker who finally, gets into Sundance and then at the last minute decides they're not going to go. Like, you are foregoing not just a huge payday from being there, but a huge opportunity. I mean, that is a major opportunity to get to play South by Southwest if you're an independent band. And to forgo that in solidarity, not just with the Palestinian people, obviously, but with your other fellow bands. I think this got momentum. Like once a few start to boycott, you kind of look like the scab if you don't.
You look like a dick. Yeah.
Right. And then that creates this real solidarity where now every Irish band on the lineup has now pulled out.
Yeah, this is really encouraging to see because it indicates to me a breakdown in what you might call the TED Talkization of America's intellectual life. It's very much reflects what Anand Giridharadas is describing in Winners Take All, a book I recommend to anyone, however you feel about some of his subsequent statements. That book is a great picking apart an expose of how we got here and the world that we're living in, where these multinational corporations after the 60s and 70s decided to put enormous amounts of money into funding university departments and programs within university, where basically they would take the kind of people who might have wound up going into social work and political activism in earlier generations and basically grooming, I think I can use it in this context without getting us pulled off the air, and grooming them into a career at McKinsey. Right? Well, how are you going to change the world if you don't know how it works? So you go do a few years at McKinsey and then you'll know how to scale up your programs. And this is how you wind up with microloans for women and all of these ideas. They took all that idealistic energy and channeled it in a direction that would not threaten the core premises of capitalism. And they took people who might have been a threat and neutralized them early through the university system. Things like South by Southwest, the Aspen Institute, TED Talks are kind of an extension of normalizing this capitalist ethos. And that is why you would have an arts festival that is having the U.S. Army as a super sponsor. That would have been inconceivable in, say, 1975. Right, that you would have a music festival sponsored by the U.S. Army because there was a point of view and a principle. They have very effectively eroded that and turned it towards, I will again quote our colleague Tusker, a consumer fetishism. Right now, what is music? It's a poster you put on your wall. Right, it's a T-shirt that you wear. It's not a principle, but now we're turning back towards that, and that I would hope, and I think will happen with Gen Z. It's going to shatter that winners take all consensus. It's going to shatter that TED Talks consensus. TED Talks and that it's all connected. Very much functions to sanitize an insane system. Today on TED Talks, Joseph Mengele about experimental medicine, right? I mean, they'll put anybody up there and, they give a kind of endearing slideshow and nobody looks under the hood at what these people are really about. And that's what South by Southwest functions as well. You connect these billionaires to artists and entrepreneurs and companies, and the whole thing sanitizes and validates the entire system that all of these things reflect. It's funny, the Rolling Stones are touring right now, but the Rolling Stones were kind of pioneers in turning rock concerts away from being these rebellious countercultural events and towards sucking up as much money as possible from the audience. They were one of the first bands, and they were called out at the time in alternative newspapers for over commercializing the experience. But now we're there. Now you look at people like Elton John. You know, it's all fashion designers. You know, Bono. Bono is probably
Right.
the ultimate example of the South by Southwest mentality. The way it's, you know, oh, you can be a cool rock star and also pose with George Bush.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at Rolling Stone magazine; it's a perfect example
Well, right.
of
Right.
something that was really just like this radical newsletter, you know, back in the day. And
One of the newsletters that called out the Rolling Stones back then, in spite of their title.
yeah, and now look, you know, now look what it is, right? It's all just the most banal sort of, you know, lib takes and, you know, 5-star reviews of bad U2 albums, right? Or like Bruce Springsteen live albums. Right? I mean,
Damn
that's
you,
all that is.
Rogan!
Exactly. Yeah, that's all that is now. That's all that is now. So it's a great example of that. But obviously, good on these artists for doing that. That's great, and I hope people check them out. I hope people listen to them. So what is it? Kneecap, Soda Blondes, and what was the other one? Gavin James, I knew, but what was the other band? Sprints, the other one. All right, beautiful.
Please clap.